All right, let's dive into this explainer and uncover the hidden recipe behind every single product and service we use in our daily lives. Today, we are breaking down the invisible architecture that holds our entire economy together.
Take a quick look around you right now. Maybe you're holding a smartphone, wearing a really cozy sweater, or just sipping your morning coffee. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder how your phone, your clothes, or even that favorite lunch of yours was made? And I'm not just talking about some factory assembly line here. I'm talking about the fundamental building blocks required before that factory even exists. Every single item goes through a highly specific production process, and they all rely on the exact same core blueprint.
So that blueprint, it's what economists call the factors of production. These factors are basically the core resources, or inputs, that get combined to create absolutely any good or service out there. You can think of them as four distinct pillars that make our entire economy function. Without even one of these pillars, well, the whole structure just collapses and production completely grinds to a halt.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the recipe for production, then look at land as our natural foundation, move into labor and human capital, see how we go about building skills and knowledge, check out capital for fueling the machine, and wrap up with the entrepreneurial spark.
Okay, part one, the recipe for production.
To make these kind of abstract economic terms totally tangible, let's zoom in on a really relatable, everyday example. Think of Ratna. So Ratna had this vision and started a small highway restaurant called Pause Point. Now, to make it a roaring success for hungry highway travelers, she couldn't just, snap her fingers. She had to carefully gather a very specific mix of inputs: a physical location, dedicated staff to cook and serve, fresh ingredients, and obviously the money for rent and kitchen equipment. Basically, every business, from a massive tech giant down to your local food stall, relies on this exact same process, combining different inputs to create something valuable.
Moving on to part two, land, which is our natural foundation.
This first pillar really builds the absolute foundation of literally any business. Now, in economics, land isn't just, geographical space or real estate. It's actually a super broad term encompassing all the natural resources a business purchases or rents. We're talking about the soil a farmer uses, the forests that give us timber, flowing water, minerals extracted deep from the earth, natural gas, and even the sunlight. It's every single gift from nature that serves as a raw input for production.
All right, part three, labor and human capital. Because let's be real, raw materials just sitting on the ground don't magically become a smartphone or a delicious meal. We desperately need human intervention to transform those raw, natural resources into something actually useful. And that brings us to labor. Whether you're a carpenter carefully carving wood, a farmer harvesting crops out in the hot sun, a police officer maintaining law and order, or a scientist inventing crazy new technologies in a lab, everyone is contributing effort. Labor is both the physical and the mental effort used in production. It's the sweat on the brow and the intense focus of the mind.
But there's a really crucial distinction economists make here. Labor is just the basic effort you put in. But human capital? That's the specialized skills, the knowledge, the abilities, and the sheer expertise required to perform that labor efficiently. If labor is the raw human energy, human capital is the specialized expertise that makes that energy highly productive and frankly super creative.
Which leads us nicely into part four, building skills and knowledge.
You see, you can't just wish for a highly skilled workforce. You actually have to build it. Proper healthcare is step one, for sure. It supports the physical well-being and cognitive development needed just to be able to learn and work consistently without losing precious time to being sick. Then comes education and training. A civil engineering student learns the fundamental principles of design sitting in a classroom, but it's the hands-on training that really teaches them how to build a durable, cost-efficient bridge out in the real world. Together, health and education prepare workers, like software devs and engineers, to solve incredibly complex real-world problems.
But you know what? It goes even deeper than formal schooling. Excellence is profoundly driven by culture. Just think of Japan's post-1940s dedication to Kaizen, which is this amazing philosophy of continuous incremental improvement that absolutely catapulted their living standards. Or look at India's incredible ancient skill heritage. Indian artisans actually considered work a form of devotion, passing down intricate knowledge through ancient texts like the Shilpa Shastras. In fact, over 2,000 years ago, Indians were building these massive ocean navigating ships by stitching wooden planks together with cords instead of using rigid nails. That made them flexible enough to withstand the volatile Indian Ocean. I mean, that is human capital built on generations of deep cultural dedication to a craft.
However, there are some very real challenges to developing this capital. We can see this pretty clearly by looking at the adult literacy rates in India, which, as of 2023, sit at 85% for males and 70% for females. Literacy is quite literally the absolute baseline characteristic that enhances the productivity of an entire population. When a society struggles with access to quality schooling, or when students have to drop out due to economic hardship, it directly impacts the nation's human capital. And as a result, businesses really struggle to find workers with the necessary skills.
But there is a massive, exciting demographic dividend on the horizon here. 65% of people in India are currently below the age of 35. Just let that sink in for a second. This represents a young, highly productive workforce capable of some unbelievable growth. When you have a massive number of young, working people with fewer dependents, and you give them access to quality education, health, and skilling, man, the entire country's living standards can just skyrocket.
Let's pivot to part 5, capital, which is all about fueling the machine.
So we've got our natural resources, and we've got skilled humans ready to work. Now we need the crucial fuel that amplifies all that effort. In everyday conversation, we usually just use capital to mean money. And while monetary resources are definitely part of it, in economics, capital also prominently includes the durable, human-made physical assets that are essential for day-to-day operations. This means the massive manufacturing machinery, the intricate tea factory equipment, computers, delivery vehicles, and the actual factories themselves. It is the human-made resources we use to produce other goods and services.
To acquire these really expensive physical assets, you need financial capital. Small business owners, like Ratna with her highway restaurant, usually start with personal savings, but they often have to secure bank loans, meaning they're paying back that borrowed money plus interest over time. Massive companies, on the other hand, require staggering amounts of money to build vast factories. So, they raise this financial capital through the stock market, essentially selling tiny little shares of their business to the public in exchange for funds, and then paying out a portion of their profits as dividends.
And finally, part 6. The entrepreneurial spark.
Because listen, you can have all the land, you can have a highly skilled labor force, and you can have a giant pile of money and machines. But absolutely nothing happens until someone puts it all together. The entrepreneur is that vital spark. They're the dynamic visionaries of the economy who look at the world, identify a problem, and are just entirely resolute about solving it with an innovative idea. They take on the immense risk, investing their own time and their own money to gather the land, hire the labor, and secure the capital. By making their startup a reality, they create jobs, support livelihoods, and ultimately contribute to the overall welfare of society.
As Vivek Debroy, the chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, brilliantly pointed out, for a nation to truly grow, it's not just about having these resources. It's about efficiency. Mastering and efficiently combining these factors, land, labor, and capital, is the absolute ultimate key to a nation's growth and productivity. The entrepreneur is basically the conductor of this giant economic orchestra.
So the blueprint is out there. Every single day, entrepreneurs are utilizing land, harnessing the incredible power of human capital, and deploying capital tools to build our modern world. So, looking at the world around you right now with this brand new perspective, what amazing thing will you build? What problem are you going to solve?